From Krypton Radio and the creators of the Hangin' With web show, it's the legend of the Traveling Tardis. Look inside and behind the scenes at some of the most enduring and beloved science fiction worlds. Step inside the doors to a world that is bigger, brighter, and beyond imagination. And now, join your host, Christian Basel, as you become a part of the legend of the Traveling Tardis.
Hello there, fellow Whovians. This is Christian Basel, your host of the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS radio show. If you're joining us on Spreaker or iTunes or wherever you're listening to us on the social media, thank you for joining us. And for those of you coming back, thank you for joining us again. I am, again, Christian Basel, your host of this show and the creator of the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS on the Facebook page. We're today going to be reviewing... No, wait, I got it wrong. That's Kerblam. I'm so used to that spray stuff. Kaboom. So, I'm sorry. I was just like, I got it wrong.
It was such a big build-up, and then
I know, I'm sorry.
Kersplat.
You know what? The whole time I keep on hearing Kerblam, I keep on thinking Billy Mays is going to pop up and do, "Hey, it's Billy Mays again, and I want you to try this new product here called Kerblam." Anyway, I'll go with folks. I can't do these reviews alone, so joining me again is one of my friends, Jessica Womack, who does Swan cosplay. How you doing, Jessica?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Not bad. Oh, I'm having a great time there. And joining us again from Clermont Comic-Con, which we'll talk a little bit about that, Melanie Dean.
Hello again.
Hello there. And our good friend, author and novelist and horror expert, Mark Muncy of Erie, Florida. How you doing there, Mark?
Wonderful. Glad to be back.
Yeah. What did you guys think of Clermont Comic-Con?
Great little con. I had a blast with it. It was it was a good crowd. They were it's not at the peak time of year where cons are every week. So it was kind of a nice break and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say
No.
I was going to just echo the same thing. It's a smaller con. It's a good con. Really excited crowd that always goes there. This is the second time I've gone. And every time it's just a really, good, decent, fun show. And actually, in my table neighbor, the guy next to me in the booth over there, he was pretty cool too.
I know. I don't know who the hell you're talking about, but anyway, if you were at Clermont Comic-Con, the reason why we're even mentioning it is this is the first time ever that the radio show has had a panel. This is our first introduction, so we did it at Clermont Comic-Con, and for those of you who are just joining us who may have been at the convention and are listening, we want to thank you for listening with us. We had a great time. The panel that we do is a little different. We don't just sit behind a table. We love to interact with the audience, with the Whovians out there, and get everybody's take on what was going on. The topic was Jodie Whittaker, and I think we just kind of there was a gentleman out there, and I forgot his name. I am so sorry there, but he hadn't seen Doctor Who in like forever, and he wanted to get back into it. So I'm sorry, I'm bad with names when it comes over time, but I want to thank him and his daughter for coming. Mm-hmm. And as well as everybody else who came to our panel and had a really great time, and we made sure that everybody had their input on the panel there. But let's get started. Speaking of Clermont Comic-Con and news, yeah, I don't know why I even went that segue, but let's go for it. All right, who knew news with Seijiya? Go for it.
Okay. Our Who Knew News, we will start out with some Kerblam viewings. We had 5.93 million viewers tune in. It was the Christian's got me doing it. It was the fourth most watched show on BBC on Sunday night. So she's holding steady, right?
And everybody, I've been seeing so many things, and I know you got to be careful about the news that you see nowadays because you've got your haters, your likers, and everybody is twisting the numbers around. And I kind of did some research, and if I'm not mistaken, team, I think she's at par
Yes.
I don't. She and every new doctor has had that big moment. You know, she started off with 10, and now the overnight ratings have kind of dropped to 5. But I think she's on par with everything else. When the ratings finally have gotten out, when the ratings finally get out, she's gotten, I think, 7 point something right now. So she's on par with the average of what everybody has been doing, and she's actually been doing a little bit better than Capaldi and Matt Smith, from what I understand.
Yeah, she's been doing really well. So, and speaking of Capaldi, or at least the 12th Doctor, if you are missing the 12th Doctor at all, there is the new Doctor Who graphic novel out from Panini Publishing. It's called The Phantom Piper, and the storyline revolves around the 12th Doctor, and it does get back to SyFy, as we talked about last week.
Hold on.
Dun, 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 dun. So that was fun. But for this Doctor, I thought this was really cool. They do the annual BBC fundraiser. It's called Children in Need, and it happened over this past weekend. And they raised over £50 million for children in need. And
Sweet.
There was a 9-year-old girl there. Her name was Anna, and she suffers from cystic fibrosis, but she is a massive Doctor Who fan. And the cast, this year's cast, came out and took pictures with her and let her hop in the TARDIS. And there are some awesome pictures online with her and Jodie and the entire cast. So I thought that was just fantastic.
Oh.
I know,
That's
it tugs at the
wonderful.
heartstrings,
That's
doesn't
amazing.
it?
Yeah, the video was great. They gave her a whole costume and everything.
See?
Oh, that's even better.
It is. That's fantastic. So, well, and my last piece of news is kind of silly, since we were jumping around with different doctors. David Tennant was recently on TV. He was on Jamie Oliver's cooking show, Jamie's Friday Night Feast cooking show, and they made Croatian cuttlefish risotto together. Isn't that sweet?
That sounds pretty tasty. I'm hungry now.
Oh yes, cuttlefish. That's really tasty.
All I can picture is David from the Catherine Tate Christmas special show, where he's going, "Ooh, risotto, risotto, risotto."
You know he did that.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
And that is my Who Knew News for the night.
That is the Who Knew News for the night. Hey there, folks. When we come back, we're going to be talking about our. Actually, you know what? Let me guys get you let's get the numbers for everybody. Traveling Tardises. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 not being so great, 10 being awesome. Without going into anything yet, Melanie, what would you rate Kerblam?
I'm going to rate this one at a solid 8, possibly a 9, only because I just watched it the one time.
Gotcha. No problem. Okay. One time's good enough for me. Mark, what do you think?
I give it a high 7, yeah.
Give it a high 7. And Jessica, what would you rate this episode?
I'd rate it a 6.
Rated a 6. Okay. Now here's the thing that's going to be a little bit different from the others, our episodes. I'm not going to tell you my number until the very end. Not only that, but Sage knows the number that I rated this episode. And I'm going to let you guys talk it out. And when we come back, when we review the episode, let's see if you change my number. Let's see if you guys can make a difference in the number that I've selected. Now, Sage knows the number, right? I gave it to you earlier.
Yep, I know it. Mom's the word.
So when the end of this episode, Sage is going to reveal the number I started with, and let's see if that number changes. When we come back for the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, folks, stay tuned, stay logged on, and continue to become part of the legend.
It's Germany, 1938. Charlotte is a 15-year-old girl living in the Jewish quarter. George lives in the city proper, and enamored by Charlotte's charm and grace when she wanders into his cobbler shop. George decides right then and there that he is going to marry her. Follow along as this unlikely couple struggles to stay one step ahead of the Gestapo in their dramatic escape from Nazi Germany. Good Things Always Happen in Springtime, from author Joanne Fisher, on Amazon.com today. Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
Hello, sweeties. I'm Crystal Moore. I play the Doctor in fan series Doctor Who Velocity. You're listening to The Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Thank you for staying with us. I'm here with Jessica Womack. I'm here with Melanie Dean, and I am here with Mark Muncy of Erie, Florida. And today we are reviewing the episode called Kerblam. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, you may want to put us on hold for just a moment, or keep this in your mobile device or whatever you listen to us, and check out the episode and come right back there. But as we go by order, Jessica, you had the lowest number because I'm keeping mine in check for right now. Jessica, you said a 6. Good stuff about Kerblam, bad stuff about Kerblam, and go.
It was a really good filler, but that's all it. I mean, I know that's what most of this season has been, is filler, but this one really felt like a filler. But in certain blah, 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 in certain ways, also known, English has been really hard for me today. I don't know what's going on. But in certain ways, I almost liked that about it because it felt like a Doctor Who filler, which, you know, definitely boosted my score a little bit because it reminded me of the Planet of the Oods and, you know, all these classic ones that we've seen of, like, you show up, it's a factory, you know, nothing's actually going wrong, but everything's going wrong. So it just felt like it actually felt a bit more like Doctor Who than a lot of the other episodes to me, which is what I liked about it. Other than that, it's really hard to give a filler episode, or one that feels like a filler episode, a higher rating, because, you know, but I loved the team. They each had their own thing, their own positive things, and they really worked together as a unit, which we've kind of seen that a little bit before, but this one really kind of found its footing of them functioning as a unit, because they had little moments of, like, mentioning, you know, other things that they'd done, and, you know, I liked that. The things that I really wasn't a huge fan of was, and I'm usually good with this when it has a double meaning and it kind of is speaking to us, but the whole gun control motif at the end, I wasn't a fan of. I don't know why, because I usually like something with a little bit of a message at the end, but this one seemed a little too on the nose, and I think that was kind of building up a little bit from previous episodes in this season of how it's always had a little bit too much of a message as a through line. And I've said in previous episodes that I was okay with that. I really liked that it had a through line message, but now it's starting to get a little bit too preachy. And
which is, it seems to be a common criticism about this show, the episodes that are going on, that it's just getting a little bit into the preachy mode. And in fact, somebody had mentioned Supergirl preachy. Yeah,
and that's the whole thing with it, is we've always had an on occasion one in Doctor Who, but it starts losing its impact. Like, one of my favorites with Capaldi is his whole speech about the war when he's talking to Bonnie, and that is probably one of my favorite speeches of all of Doctor Who, is just that moment when he's talking about a war and no one knows who's going to die when that first shot's fired. And it was beautiful, but every single episode with Capaldi wasn't him preaching about something. That one stood alone. Like, that one was its own. So, yeah, my biggest issue with this was it was Amazon gone rogue. But, which...
I didn't know if I was going to say the word or not, but yeah, it looks like Amazon. Somebody went into Amazon and go, you know, it'd be a great Doctor Who episode.
Yeah, well, and yeah, and that's really what it was, and I liked that, though. I liked that whole motif of it, but just the end result was a little bit of a letdown for me, because it just came back to that preaching again about current issues, which is great if it's every few episodes, but not every episode.
Not every episode. Mark, you gave it a 7. Do you think the show is preachy?
Oh, well, that was my problem with it was, Amazon men on the moon there. That they didn't have, again, the same problem they've had all this time. It didn't have a villain. I mean, I would have been happy with a space Jeff Bezos there.
Wait a minute, you didn't think it had a villain?
It didn't. It didn't really feel like it. I mean, it was it was tense. What's going on? Who's the thing? And the guy's trying to make Charlie's big reveal. He's making a point, but it's the doctor who makes the real point, saying it's not the technology that's causing this impression. It's that it's the humans at the top of the chain, exploiting the humans at the bottom.
I'm going to help you with that, because I usually pick a line from the show that kind of represents the show itself, but that was the line that I picked. The systems aren't the problem. It's how the people use and exploit the system that's the problem.
Right, and we had the two guys who were the pencil pushers, and you could have made them the bad guys, but they were trying to help. They were good guys. And it was like everybody was kind of a good guy, except for Charlie, but he really wasn't that bad of a guy, except he wanted to blow everybody up, which I think kind of defeated the purpose of his rise up and save the world. It was just so it was a muddled mess. Up until that point, I thought it was amazing. I just kept waiting for a good bad guy to show up, and that's what keeps it from getting up into a great episode. It was just a good, solid Doctor Who. Just needed that oomph to get up into the top.
Did anybody remember that scene before the explosion goes off, and I was waiting for Will Smith to be running around the robots at any time soon to that I Robot little scene there? I was waiting for Sonny to stick his head out and just like, oh yeah, that's me. So I was paying that homage. But Mel, you gave it a 9. You saw that it was really good. Hit me up. Tell me what was great about the show.
I'll split the difference and go 8.5, because I want to say solid is maybe a 9. So yeah.
Okay.
Because the thing that does make it fall down for me, and that's where I'll go with the bad first, is, and segueing with everyone else, there wasn't like the big bad. On a good note, I did not see Charlie being, well, one, I didn't see the bubble wrap being the weapon, the thing that was weaponized. I didn't see that coming. I thought that was like, ooh, when that happened, when the girl kind of like goes bloop and pops it and
yeah, I
was just kind of like, oh, that was smart. I was like clapping at my TV like an idiot, going bravo. That was did not see that coming. But I did also like how Yaz and Brian looked right at Charlie like, wait a minute, like instantly went, how did you know that was going to be a problem? So I kind of like the writing on them detecting, okay, there's something wrong with this guy. The fact that was there Judy, the people kind of person lady, how I liked how her and the other gentleman, how they didn't trust one another to say, well, maybe you're the bad guy, or maybe you're the bad guy. They went on their own kind of way of trying to research it, or even just putting their blinders on, actually, within her case, and how they both didn't really communicate to one another. I liked how they both weren't the bad guy. But the big bad guy really, really wasn't one. It was Charlie, who's hating the system, but then the system is saying help, and it kind of lost me at the end. So that was like the reasons why I didn't score it any higher than I did. But good things, rather quickly, is as somebody who's worked in the corporate life for 30 odd years, my God, I cannot tell you how many times, and this is how many times I have literally gone into a break room to make coffee, where a team leader comes in and goes, how many people does it take, how long does it take you to make coffee? And you go back to your desk. I can't tell you how many emails I've had where they're telling everybody in the room, less talk, more work. So all those little pieces just resonated with me, going everything from me working at a Sam's Club where you have a manager, or everybody, where how the whole corporate system is, less talk, more work. You're not efficient. You're not doing this. And those little notes were all over the place where that resonated me with the episode. But from a team perspective, I thought they used Graham really well. I thought they used Yaz really well. They used Ryan really well. I just thought they were a really good team this time around. I thought the set design, at first I thought this was, going to be a bottle episode. Let's see how cheap we can go on it. But the set design on this one was really good. I was impressed with that dude's office. I was impressed with some of the lighting effects. Mm-hmm. That whole scene with them jumping on the conveyor belts, yes, with Doctor Who, I'm going to suspend disbelief, but they can jump from one to the other, especially when Ryan has a little bit of a coordination problem. But that made me feel like I was in Monsters, Inc. again, and we're going to go look for a door, and I would just want this to be a ride. Let's go.
I was all in on that. That's something very positive about this, because I've felt like in the last couple episodes, Ryan has just been Ryan, but nothing really pointed to him. Like Punjab was mostly for Yaz. Mm-hmm. But Graham always gets the good lines. I mean, he's always got the comic relief going, and Bradley Walsh just does it naturally. It's just like, okay, fine, I've got a mop now. Thank you very much.
And to that point, the fact that when they got there and they're scanning them just specifically on their physicalities, to me, I'm thinking, okay, the doctor with two hearts who has the better, pulmonary system, she's gonna have better cardio. She was gonna be the janitor. Seriously, she was gonna be the janitor.
Yeah, that didn't make sense.
Do what now? She can run faster to a spill? But so that part made me go, what? But I like that motif, the fact that they all had ankle bracelets on. I'm like, hey, you guys are just prisoners. So no, I really like this episode.
Pretty much prisoners to the corporation, and I did like that they let Ryan play a little bit. He wasn't just the video game boy. And not only that, I love the fact that I'm paraphrasing. I have this little problem, and he's jumping off the conveyor belt. I'm like, what? And I don't know why it harkened back to the third Indiana Jones movie where Indy has to believe that there's something on the floor. Mm-hmm. That he's trying to walk across this thing to this bridge to get to the Holy Grail. Yeah, and I thought that right away when Ryan went, he's just like, it's a leap of faith, literally, that he goes and then he kicks Charlie off. So I'm like, poor guy.
And high five!
I was like, oh god, really?
And I liked before he jumps in there, Yaz is kind of waiting, like the whole trash chute kind of scene, and she's like, have you done this before? And he's like, oh, yeah, once. I got a sprained ankle and a final warning. That, I laughed aloud on that one. I thought it was a great delivery, and it was just funny as hell.
I got a question for you all. And this is, you probably start noticing what my number is later on. I got a question for you all, and this is, anybody wants to pick at this. What was the moral of this story?
Exactly, it was a muddled message.
The mere fact that you guys took about 5 seconds to respond told me everything I needed to know.
I was going to see if someone else said something, but it seemed like the moral, like I said, I read it as a lot of harping on gun control, because it's not the machines, it's the people behind it. Mm-hmm. And that was the message. Everyone likes to blame, it's the video games, that's why we're having mass shootings. It's because these kids are playing video games and their parents have guns.
That's an interesting take.
And the doctor even says, she's like, it's not it's not the machines. We make the choices. We pull the triggers. We are the ones who are setting up the bombs. It's the people behind it, not the mechanics, and not the movies that we watch or anything like that. Right. That's what I got from it. And that's kind of what, to me, was like a little too preachy, since we've had so much of that. Now, if this had come later in the season, we'd had a little bit more fluff in between, I'd probably be totally chill with it, because, like I said, I like something that has relevance. But that was actually one of my negative things for it. But, I absolutely agree with that stance that the doctor is saying. But that's what I took away from it, was you have to recognize we like to blame, and also it's circumstance, because it also seemed like it was harping a bit on, because Charlie was having the mentality of a lot of terrorists and suicide terrorists, because he was a terrorist for this planet, because he was planning on killing innocent lives to make a point for the end game, for the greater good.
See, now this is where... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. And that was the other portion of it was, is it the circumstance that creates them? But it's not. Everyone else grew up in the same circumstance. And there are other ways to make a statement, which the doctor says in her speech. There are other ways to make a statement than to kill people. There are proper ways to do this. And it's your choice. And Charlie tried to act like he didn't have a choice. This was the only way. And I thought that's what the message was, and that was the point of this story.
I think, Mark, growing up with classic Doctor Who, there was always that anti-establishment feeling.
Oh, yeah.
The Doctor was always going after something. Now, here's kind of a shocker that I guess for a better term, I think it's Pete Tahig who wrote the episode, Tiggy. I was that's where I got lost. I'm like, is this against corporate? Is it for corporate? I even thought with Charlie was this anti-millennial. Yeah. Like, here's this kid crying and whining and going like, well, I didn't get the job that I was supposed to be, and I don't. And all of a sudden, the Doctor is now siding with the corporate office, and the corporate office is saying, yeah, I think in the future we're going to get more people. But in reality, I don't know if that's the case. I know what the message was kind of saying, but it still got diluted in other messages. I just could not put it out. And I get what you're saying there, Jessica. I still don't know what the moral is. I don't know what I was walking away from. If anybody wants to focus it for me,
well, maybe it wasn't supposed to. Like, maybe it was just supposed to make you think and because there's so many people who don't know what their stances are. I'm an extremely strongly opinionated person, but I have met so many people in my life who are like, I don't know what goes on. I don't know what I think about that. And I feel like this one kind of laid all the cards down, and it's supposed to be, how do you interpret it? Whose side did you choose? And it almost like helps guide you to what you believe without actually telling you, oh, you're a Whovian, you must believe this, And so I kind of liked that. It was a little muddied, and it was a little bit, it didn't lead you to a conclusion. It kind of allowed you to have a metaphor for you to choose your own path.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, that might be the case, and I think because I'm so used to things being the way that Doctor Who is, and mostly when the Doctor goes out there, he or she is anti-establishment. Now all of a sudden, the 13th Doctor is kind of siding with it. Not only that, but the establishment is now showing compassion, which we don't normally see in Doctor Who as much. Am I wrong to say that, Mark?
No, I was thinking that it was exactly, yes, like I said, the message was so muddled. Like I said, I was thinking completely like you were at first. It's like, this is, how we all just sit at home and click and order things, and we don't think about small business. We don't think about, the local people, and everybody's running out of jobs just so we can save a few bucks on getting those tennis shoes we want.
Right.
And that's what I thought the message was at first. And then it got all, Callywumpus at the end. And it was like, okay, to me, it just seemed like poor writing. And that was what it came down to. So many episodes this season.
From what Jessica says, she's leaving it open to interpretation. But then I get to ask two questions on this one. One, because the first thing I saw when Charlie was ratted out for being, the murderer, for the better term, is this anti-millennial? Is this a perspective from a millennial? It's like, they don't like the establishment, so they're do more drastic things to destroy the establishment. And two, if this is the case where it is an open interpretation of what this episode could be, why was it written in the first place besides to be an Amazon, a take on a Doctor Who Amazon episode? Anybody can jump in.
For me, like I said, it just seemed like messy. It's so good up until about that 3/4 mark. Mm-hmm. And that last little bit just kind of, they were building the tension and building the stakes, but I just don't think they knew what they wanted to do with it.
Yeah. Well, it didn't seem. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's fine. No, we're good. In fact, Melanie, I'm going to ask you the next question coming up because we're going to talk about my favorite should have been new companion, Kira. But we're going to talk more about her when we come back right after this. We've got to pay some bills.
We all have one shot at life. Rambling Across America by Tommy Ray is an adventure about chasing dreams. In brilliant prose, follow Tommy Ray through personal experience, inspirational quotes and photos from his Confessions of a Dreamer tour. Woke one night from a dream, Tommy resigned his safe, secure position and took a leap of faith. Now, he invites you to follow his journey. Rambling Across America by Tommy Ray. Get it on Amazon.com because today is going to be ridiculously amazing.
The Hanging with Web Show Radio Hour on Krypton Radio, bringing you the very best in pop culture talk radio. Each Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, the Hanging with Web Show Radio Hour with your hosts G.W. Pomacher and Christian Basel, who are hanging with rising pop culture newcomers as well as superstar icons. The Hanging with Web Show Radio Hour. Tune in Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Who are you hanging with?
Well, hopefully right now you're hanging with us, the Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show. My name's Christian Basel. I'm your host. Our guest panelists today are Jessica Womack, we have Melanie Dean, and we have author of Erie, Florida, Mark Muncy. And I know people were chomping at the bit to wrap up the last topic, and Melanie, I know you want to jump a little bit there, and then I want to go into my future companion that didn't happen, Kira. But go ahead, Melanie, take it away.
Well, I kind of wanted to agree with my fellow panelists that the moral of the story was diluted at the end. It was very fuzzy because it just, I think either whether it was written that way or if it was written in a certain way where they were hoping that either directing and editing would have pointed it so that it would have been clearer, then it just was poorly executed. I don't know. For me, I kind of took it as the moral of the story as the dangers of automation, only because this happens so far in the future, and this has always kind of been a motif ever since Ford started his production line. Heck, there was a riot with the laborers then, and 3 men were killed because they freaked out and everything. So there was. To me, I saw that as the dangers of automation, and that kind of dovetailed into her saying, or what the doctor was saying, not great, almost like a little great power comes great responsibility dealy of you have this automation, you have this power, you have this technology. It's how you choose to utilize it and work with it. There, ergo, where's all the jobs, and how come only 10% of the people are actually working? And you have to know how to use it, rather than just say, okay, everything's automated, and now almost in that kind of the dangers of Amazon. So I think that they kind of had a lot of different morals that were playing around, but they did not focus it at the end. And usually with any type of Doctor Who story, they kind of give you a focused one, or maybe even like a little 3-pronged kind of deal of, okay, this is the main moral, but also, if you're mad and you're angry at something, maybe this isn't the correct way to go about it. There, have a little bit more brains and think through how you can appropriately, fix the situation, not just through violence. So for me, again, the moral to it was just, the dangers of automation and knowing how to apply them into no matter what society, what corporation, what methodology you're doing for it.
Gotcha. Jessica, did you want to add more to this?
The only short things I was going to say was, I think it's funny how both you and Mark are like, oh yeah, the Doctor's against the corporation. But when we had this arachnids in the UK, both of you were like, oh, it's always the corporation that's the bad guy. And I just thought that was really funny. They kind of did flip the tables, and it was just like, not a big fan of either of them.
Right, but I mean, I grew up Classic Who, and this was something that was a running theme on Classic Who. I'm not saying... And this was a kind of, especially arachnids in the UK, I'm like, geez, wow, can we just say hate the corporation and everything else? Being subtle as a rhinoceros horn out the backside. But I mean, this is something, I stole that from Rowan Atkins, sorry. But this has been something that was very interesting, and I thought this was a great experiment. What if the corporation isn't the bad thing at all? What if they do care? So it was kind of a neat. And speaking of people who do care, Jessica, I want to talk about Kira. First of all, I think she was my Christmas episode for the 5 minutes she was explaining about gifts and stuff like that. Opening the package and was telling people, hey, this is the greatest moment, and I don't have a family. Harken me back to Linda with a Y on Satellite 5. And I felt so bad the same way with Linda on the Satellite 5 who passed, who ended up with her demise, because we had this whole backstory on this character that was just developing and growing, and then she's almost she's got 9 out of the 10 toes in the TARDIS ready to go, and boom, the Daleks take her out. Same thing here with poor Kira. What did you guys think of her as the device, as far as something that the system wanted to hit Charlie with and build up for her character? Yeah.
I was just going to say, I agree with the Satellite 5 and Linda with the Y, because I remember as I was watching this show, or this episode, I did think about that and going, this has a lot of parallels back to that episode of having that level that nobody goes to. And then all of a sudden, the character that you've had this develop, you've been kind of thinking a little bit of development. You're like, oh, she's sweet. I like her. This is kind of cool. You're rooting for her. And then she gets carted off, and she's going to go to that bizarre level, and I'm kind of in my mind going, oh no, please don't, please don't, I want her in the TARDIS, please, damn it. No, that's it.
I'm sorry there. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
My comment on it was just, I thought her death was surprisingly graphic for Doctor Who at this point. Even though they don't really show anything, it was right on the nose, the big explosion. Right behind the glass. Normally they would, in the old days, they would just cut away, and you would hear the explosion or something. Everybody, you would get a close up of somebody's face reacting to it. So I thought that was actually a bold choice for them at that point, especially since we'd grown to like the character so much.
What did you think, Jess?
I absolutely adored her. She reminded me also of the Dream episode with Clara with the face suckers and the dancing girl.
Oh, Shona.
Yeah.
I remember that because I was in a panel and we described it as the Shona shuffle that she was doing. Yeah, Shona. Yeah, I remember her. Yeah, and then poor girl who I think when she woke up, you could tell she broke up with her boyfriend. And that just was even harder to take in, but she looked like she was trying to get back with him again in that Christmas list that she had there. Which I was going like, okay, Chibnall, you don't want a Christmas episode, but yet you gave us Kira, and then all of a sudden I was fondly for a Christmas episode all of a sudden, because she's talking about gifts and opening them, and it's just like, wow, okay, I don't know. Also, Melanie, I'm dubbing this the Sonic pose.
It is.
There's a huzzah! No, it's the same pose. She opens her body up, and normally you see her backside with her jacket going off, and she extends her arm out like she's throwing a baseball.
Yeah. And
then she's hitting it. And I've not seen her change that, with the exception of when she's running it over the iPad or whatever she was doing to alter. So otherwise, she's doing the Sonic pose every time I see her. It's really weird.
I noticed that too, and they tend to do that also when she's. They have the camera set back so they can have her from head to toe, so you see that entire image. It's like they really are showing off that pose. But no, I noticed that too when she went right for that filing cabinet, and there's the pose.
Yeah, Mark, thanks to Moffat, I can't go to Home Depot without thinking about the cherubs in the garden section. Now I can't go to my Office Depot without looking at the bubble wrap going, okay, nobody touch that crap. Or just, if I see the attendant going, I just want to pop one or two, I'm running out of the building. What do you think that as a weapon? Bubble wrap, of all things. And you know what I'm going to add this too. If you guys remember the good old days in Classic Who.
Yes.
You know where I'm going with this, right?
Yes.
In Classic Who, nobody knew what bubble wrap was at the time. I think it was back in the 70s.
Oh, and this now I got what you're talking about.
Yeah, and this episode, I think it was called The Ark in Space, which is one of Tom Baker's best episodes. Oh, yeah. It's really cool, and it had the bad guys, the Weirin. But before they became the Weirin, there was a mutation of the humans. And if you guys want to check it out, you got to see it for yourself. You might even find it on YouTube. Nobody knew what bubble wrap was. So if you wanted to be a Weirin, and I always said this about things, of classic monsters, all you'd have to do is, if you wanted to be a classic Who monster and cosplay them, all you had to do was go to Office Depot, buy some stuff, and then you would be a classic monster. But they took bubble wrap. Yep.
I'll do it.
Well, it's
Next time I'm going to be that.
And second Doctor, all you had to do is buy a bunch of aluminum foil.
Exactly.
You could be a Croton, you could be a Cyberman, you could be anything. The bubble wrap, that was my immediate thought. When the bubble wrap exploded, I went, "Oh, it's Weirin."
It was green too. It shot out green, so I'm like, "It's Weirin."
It was even green.
Yeah, it was green. It was green. You wrap yourself in bubble wrap, make sure it's green, and then just crawl around the floor a little bit.
I do have one final really good thing about this episode was all the callbacks to older episodes where she got the fez.
Yep.
And then she did the callback about mentioning the Wasp and Agatha Christie. And I was like, okay, we're finally letting... Yes, there was a Doctor Who before this. We'll talk a little bit about it. They have to wait about midway through the first season with a new Doctor before they can do that.
Mm-hmm.
They made that mistake with Capaldi, was right off the bat having Matt Smith show back up like at the episode.
Well, and you notice the fez had a tassel, which Matt never had one with a tassel. I was like, oh gosh, we just got rid of these darn fezzes. Do we really need to bring it back?
No, we want River Song to pop into the TARDIS and shoot it off her head. That's what we need to have happen.
Yes, please.
I also noticed that the Xena maneuver came back. The Venetian Aikido.
Oh, yeah.
The Venetian Aikido, yes.
Yeah, right after they teleported and she just grabbed the gun to disarm him, just bloop, there it is.
I did also like that she did the whole charging in, demanding answers thing. I don't think she'd done that this whole season yet, and that was the first time I was like, hey, that's an old school Who. That's an old school Who move.
I thought she took in previous episodes she came out with her demeanor and started going like, oh, you're going to be answering to me. And this is one of the criticisms I have for Jodie's Doctor. And she's a wonderful actress and everything, but she's riding on Ten's coattails too hard.
Oh yeah.
I really think what would work is if we gave her a dark episode where we watched her acting chops go into all these different directions. I'm not saying something like Broadchurch or anything of that nature, but I think she needs to go dark a little bit. She's too happy. She's got the smile on her face too much. And I need an episode where she's really feeling stuff. Similar to what we felt in the end of Punjab, when she's walking away, when she knows that this has got to happen and feels defeated and like, well, we got to let happen what happens. But I really want to see Jodie do some darker episodes, something to where Capaldi was being challenged and how she would have to react to it. And it's not all fun and games time traveling. There are some responsibilities you got to take on. There are some darker themes. I'm waiting for her to do that. What do you think about that, Jess? Is that something that she needs to explore?
Oh, most definitely. I think one of the most terrifying moments of me with the Doctor that just like hurt was actually Matt Smith, because she's got like the same happy-go-lucky thing that, you know, Matt Smith had going on. It was like, oh, nothing ever phases him. Even when he's mad, he's happy, you know. Right. But the one time where, like, my face just fell and I was like, oh, was when they were in America, or on their way to America. And he says, I know you're lying. Don't think you can do that. Don't ever think. And he's just so calm and casual about it. And it is the most terrifying moment, because it's just like, he's gonna kill someone right now. But it's like that calm and collected mad that's the worst. Like, everyone can handle their parents screaming at them, but it's as soon as they're like, well, what is your choice? What did you do? You know, that's when you're like, oh crap.
No, I agree. She needs a couple bits of just very serious, just being serious about something, you know?
Exactly.
And then and then really bring in the heavy guns of her, you know, the chops that she can do completely, not brooding, but just really heavy, something like almost like akin to that war speech where it's very emotional. But we need to at least balance some of the happy-go-lucky puppy
Because we don't know what
serious.
kind of doctor she is with
Right,
that. We
right.
like with David, he's the one chance. Other than that, like, you're done. Matt was the, you know, like the puppy dog whose flailing arms could clock you on accident, and then he'd be serious about it. You know, Capaldi was definitely like that stern, constant, even when he didn't mean to be. But with her, it's just like, you know, and Eccleston was obviously just angry about everything. It was a good day when he smiles.
Yeah. Well, to your point with like Matt Smith, I mean, he was all, you know, everyone like kind of jokes around like, you know, he was a flailing giraffe. But then when he was serious, he was still. So it'd be kind of neat to see, you know, something that just completely flips the dichotomy of, okay, the doctors and, you know, that kind of deal. You know,
hey, gang, we're hitting a commercial break right now. When we come back, final thoughts, and Sage will reveal my first original number pick for my rating, and I'm going to reveal what I finally have, and I have changed my number. When we come back after this, stay tuned and continue to be become part of the legend. Sage, give me the commercial. Quick, yeah.
The Hanging with Web Show Radio Hour on Krypton Radio, bringing you the very best in pop culture talk radio. Each Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, the Hanging with Web Show Radio Hour with your hosts G.W. Pomacher and Christian Basel, who are hanging with rising pop culture newcomers as well as superstar icons. The Hanging with Web Show Radio Hour. Tune in Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Who are you hanging with?
From author Sherry Rentschler comes the Evening Bower series, a prophecy from the lost city of Atlantis, a pairing whose union will change the future. Magical creatures, prophecy, destiny, and love collide in a new kind of romance. It's Sherry Rentschler's Evening Bower series, a haunting and compelling tale pulled from humanity's lost histories. Begin the adventure with Time and Blood on Amazon.com today. Forever is only the beginning.
Channeling the Mothership is an exciting journey into the higher mysteries. Certified psychic medium and clairvoyant Jerry McDaniel's readings, writings, and messages have been received by thousands of people in more than 45 countries. These messages have been obtained by channeling his higher self. How does he do it? Is it a blessing or a curse? And what lay beyond the reach of your five senses? These mysteries and so much more are examined in this explosive book, Channeling the Mothership. Explore the mysteries of the spiritual and the metaphysical. Channeling the Mothership by author Jerry McDaniel. Available on Amazon.com today.
Hi, I'm Cosplay Michael with the Hanging with Web Show, and you're listening to Krypton Radio. And remember, cosplay's for everyone.
Cosplay's for everyone, and cosplay is not consent. Hey, welcome back, folks, to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis. We're wrapping up our show, and the final moments here, we're talking about the episode called Kerblam, which is also known as Billy May's product. Anyway, I'm here with Jessica Womack. I'm here with Melanie Dean. I'm here with author Mark Muncy of Erie, Florida. Final thoughts, guys. Jessica, go ahead and take it off since you were the lowest score. What are your final thoughts on the episode?
Final thoughts. I actually, after talking it out, I kind of like it better than I did when I first watched it. In all honesty, I almost like the open-endedness of it. But yeah, it was just a nice filler, good old filler.
And I'm gonna fill the. We need more fillers there. Melanie, what final thoughts on Kerblam?
I absolutely love it. I thought there was different little points again that just really spoke home with me, being just from working and everything else, and hopefully maybe it touched other people that, you know, as they were watching as well. I thought one thing I wanted to bring up was how the doctor had brought up to Graham that as the janitor, you're going to be able to go anywhere undetected, and that can't be possibly any truer, because any type of, look around, Google search this, any corporation that's ever had a whistleblower and all that kind of fun stuff, when they went back in to get more information, they went to the janitor crew, any custodian, anybody, because they could see everything, and even if you went undercover, you were a janitor because you could go undetected because nobody cared.
That's true. Mark, what did you think? Final thoughts on Kerblam?
I was good old school Who for a long part. They just failed to stick the landing again. They got to get a villain.
Yes, they gotta get a villain, and I hate to say this, but am I seeing a running theme throughout the series that it is still a human that's the bad guy?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can we have some actual bad guys coming from space? I don't know if that's what Chibnall is going for. If we're just, if he's saying, oh, the actual bad guy is really the human race. But Sage.
Yes. Yes.
What was my number?
It was 3.
Shock.
It's very shocking, yes.
And a very, very shocking room.
I kept that under my hat.
After talking, I bring it up between a 5 and a 6.
Ooh.
But I still stick to my 3 before we had this discussion. I think Jessica had brought up a good... everybody brought up some good points over here, but I mean, if it's left open to interpretation, I still feel that the episode was kind of Amazonish. I mean, it felt like somebody, like I said, walked around Amazon and said, hey, this might be a great episode idea, and I wish there was a focus. Maybe that wasn't the thing, but like I said, I guess because of Classic Who, I'm so focused on the establishment as the bad guy. And when it comes to something where, now the Doctor's siding with the establishment, that completely blew my mind. But I just don't. I still don't. I guess I was looking for a moral in a haystack, and I just could not find it. But it is what it is there.
It definitely made me miss classic monsters. Like, even if you brought in a Silurian or Ice Warrior or, like, something that we've seen before. Because, in a lot of these episodes, we've heard the Doctor say, oh, I've heard about them, never met them. And I'm like, is this just the season of, oh, I've heard about it, but never met it? Because I'm pretty sure you've been through time and space for, like, 2,000 years. We should have an episode where you recognize something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. These seem to be new characters. I'm just like, you've been around for quite some time, and Evil Stitch on a spaceship is something you haven't seen before. Okay, fine. I mean, it's okay. Works for me. But I'm hoping that the next episode, which is the Witchfinders, I'm hoping we get to see some of that dark stuff. I'm hoping that there's going to be a good. I think it's just the stories are just getting lousy writing. And I'm hoping that the last 3 or 4 episodes that are coming up, especially the New Year's Eve episode, I mean, Chibnall's taking a lot of chances on here. I've heard throughout the Whoniverse that it's the people are thinking it's just too PC, it's just too much in your face, and they want to get back to the sci-fi world of Doctor Who as fast as they can. And I'm hoping the Witchfinders, it takes you away in the Battle of Ranskor of Kalos. Will be taking us into that. I'm hoping we can get back to that foundation. But for the meantime, please, I'm hoping that there's something that we can look forward to, that because I don't even recognize this as Doctor Who anymore, or at least the sci-fi show that I grew up with. I just don't recognize it.
Yeah.
And I'm rooting for Jodie. I'm rooting for Jodie. I'm rooting for Chris to get this up off the ground. But right now, as where it stands right now, I'm just.
It really does feel like they're just trying to find their footing still, and we're over halfway through the season. Exactly,
and it's, and maybe that's the case. Maybe it was like the second season of Capaldi, when he let his hair grow out, he let the sonic sunglasses, he started playing the guitar. That maybe that's what we're looking for. That's what we're trying to establish to. Maybe I still think that after the first series of Capaldi, I swear that Moffat called up Capaldi and said, hey. We really need to improve things. What do you think? And I bet you he walked into that room with the sunglasses, with his hair down, wearing Patrick Troughton's pajamas, going in there and just going nuts. And he goes, here's your new Doctor. So I really have high hopes for the series. I think the episodes are good. I just think, yeah, it's just falling flat, but it's still Doctor Who, and I'm still going to watch it. I still love everything about it there.
I think this episode really was focused more on the time aspect rather than the sci-fi. Yes, there's going to be science fiction because it's going to be a little further ahead with the androids and all that kind of stuff. And let's face it, Judy has one heck of a biceps to be pulling off, android heads, and she's saying that she can do it twice. So it wasn't an anomaly. This woman is ripped underneath her little pantsuit. But yeah, I think this one focused more on time, on just how, with automation being the way it is, and just how it's gone to the point where this far away, even though it's on a different planet, a moon, that it can be, that you have there's no people. But yeah, as a Doctor Who, to fit into the Whoniverse, I see this being more of a time kind of facet, rather than the whole science fiction-y part.
Now here's the funny thing. I don't think we ever mentioned Yaz in this episode.
I don't mention Yaz very often. She's been very forgettable, except for that last episode about her.
I thought for Yaz, I think I just focused too much more on other portions to it. But to speak just quickly on Yaz, I thought the scenes between her and I forgot his name, David? No, the guy that had the dad necklace. I thought those were those were like poignant, where you really kind of finding out the humanizing it, and finding out a little bit more on how the system works and how he was trying to protect her.
Right.
And I honestly thought just the little simple part of when they were on the conveyor belt and they were about to jump down, and when she said, "Come on, we're gonna do this," and you just saw that Ryan was like, and she's like, "No, we got this," because her whole thing was the whole team effort, and then grabbed his hand. I thought that was a really kind of more team-focused thing, that she was keeping them together.
Gotcha. Well, again, folks, all fellow Whovians out there, thank you for joining us. I'd like to thank my guests and guest panelists. I'd like to thank Jessica Womack. Again, please check out Song Swan Cosplay on Instagram. Check out Melanie Dean. She's got some beautiful paintings, art, merchandise when she goes around touring the conventions. And definitely check out Mr. Mark Muncy. Horror author. I don't want to even call it horror. Do you really call it horror?
I used to write horror. I write a little bit of everything. So.
Okay.
But EerieFlorida.com.
There you go, EerieFlorida.com, folks. Again, thanks for staying with us. And I'd like to make an announcement that we are starting in the new year, even though it's only November. The Legend of the Traveling Tardis will be joining its sister podcast, Hanging with Web Show. And hopefully, I'm hoping Kevin will be coming out there to represent his show, The Justice Tower, that we will be at SyFy Bartow, February 16th, 2019. This has already been declared our first. And I'm just excited because I still don't know what the heck we're doing out there, besides we're going to have a booth. But yeah, if you want to continue to talk to us and geek out who, we're going to be out there. Some of my friends are going to be out there. A ton of my friends, I should say, out there. So please check us out. Again, you can go to the Facebook page, SyFy Bartow 2019, and it is February 16th. Get your tickets now. Again, thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're going to be reviewing next week The Witchfinders with Alan Cumming, co-star Alan Cumming. And this is going to be very, very interesting, folks. Again, please continue to listen and continue to become part of the legend.